Hello everyone, and welcome back to the inn. We're in the home stretch. The 10th is on the horizon. We still have more cards to review, oh my god. So let's get right into it. Corpse Widow. 5 cost, 4/6, Hunter rare, your death rattle cards cost 2 less. It's a beast. You know, just going with this, going 1 cost, 2 cost, 3 cost, 4 cost, 5 cost, going up to potentially 6 for a death rattle, or at least, you know, tossing out the high main on 4 with also the potentiality of just slapping it with a Crackling Razor Maul. You're looking at also potentially pushing N'Zoth Hunter in this, or at least with this. It's pretty nifty. It cannot be pained or death by priest, so it annoys them. And just stat-wise alone, it's a good size, healthy butt. So it's just like, I don't know if it will see play, but I mean, if anything, it's got at least a nice groove if we want to go curve stone with Hunter. Well,
it has a decent body. I mean, body-wise, this is a pretty decent minion. My only thing is, I mean, yes, your death rattle cards cost 2 less, but unless like a mid-range style death rattle hunter deck comes to being, which I'm going to be honest, I really do not see happening. And without that element, I don't think Corpse Widow will see play. Now, if Death Rattle Hunter comes back, and I think if it comes back, it will be like a mid-rangey version, then yeah, this will be a very strong card. But at the same point, given the Death Rattle cards we've seen for Hunter, and some of the other Death Rattle cards we've got in the past, and given how Hunter kind of wants to run, I honestly don't think this is going to see much play at all, even with as decent as it is body-wise. So, if we get Death Rattle Hunter, yeah, expect to see this. But I don't think we will, so it was a nice thought. Next up, we have Devour Mind. Devour Mind is a 5-cost pre-spell that copies 3 cards in your opponent's deck and adds them to your hand. So, essentially a much better, Thought Steal, that gives you 1 more card, but costs 2 more. Alright, so maybe? I'm just looking at that now that it gives you 1 more card for 2 more mana. That kind of seems steep to me. Before I thought this might be a decent card, but now that I'm thinking about it, Thought Steal is just way better. And although I know a lot of people have said, well, Thought Steal doesn't see play, and to that I say, you're wrong, sir. Thought Steal actually still does see play. It's just not in any of the meta net decks. But a lot of people, myself included, will sometimes consider Thought Steal if we don't have any other options. Because Thought Steal, the ability to basically have copies of things in your opponent's deck is very good for Priest. Number 1, it gives information. Number 2, sometimes those cards are very useful, and you can basically play off of those cards. It's very fun to do. But thinking that you're only going to get 1 more card for 2 more mana, maybe this sees play, but maybe I just want to run 2 Thought Steals.
Like, it looks nice on internet paper, but at the same time, it's just like, because I mean, it's just like, copy 3 cards of your opponent's deck and add them to your hand. Are these 3 separate cards? Are they the same cards potentially? And it's just like,
Eddie,
yeah, I know.
It's a bigger Thought Steal. It's 3 different cards.
And it's just like, I'm just super meh on it. Because it's just, like, sure, if I get this off of Lyra, that's really nifty, because it's just like, 3 cards from my opponent's deck, for free, sweet. I don't think I'm realistically going to put it in my actual deck, unless I'm trying to just build thief slash mean thief priest. So at that point, it's just like, I'd rather have 2 thought steals because they're cheaper.
Yeah. And I think that we are coming at this as a little bit meh from 2 entirely different perspectives. One, I'm looking at it as being a good effect, but then I'm looking and going, it might be too expensive compared to Thought Steal. And you're approaching it from nobody plays this type of junk card in Priest, so we're approaching it from two completely different areas. And I was just also thinking while you're talking, well, I guess there's arcane. Mage has Arcane Intellect for 3, and it also has Cabal Stone for 5. But then again, I also come back, and it's the same numbers. But then I come back, yeah, but the 3-cost one gets you cards from your deck, and the other one just gives you 3 random cards in general. I think that essentially similar costs for similar card generating effects for Priest in this regard is bad, because in Mage they're different card generating effects. One draws cards from your deck, the other just gives you 3 random mage spells. This one, it's the same type of effect. You are getting copies of cards from your opponent's deck. It's just that one just costs 2 more mana just to draw 1 more card. And in the context of Priest, that's bad. So yeah, I think that if this was a 4-cost spell, this would not be a bad card whatsoever. But at 5 costs, it becomes a little iffy.
But hey, it gets to become 4 with Radiant Elemental. Oh, you gotta throw that counterpoint out. That's all.
Yeah, but you know what? Those tomes can cost 4 mana with Sorcerer's Apprentice, so meh.
No, I was looking at it that Cabal Stone costs 3 because Primordial Glyph.
So we need a Primordial Glyph for Priest, is what you're saying.
Moving on. Glacial Mysteries. It's an 8-cost mage epic. Put 1 of each secret from your deck into the battlefield. Whew, this is... Okay. So, everyone knows that Secret Mage is a thing. Like, that's no mystery at all. There's also that 2-cost Arcanologist that allows you to be able to pull those secrets from your deck and just add them straight to your hand. Glacial Mysteries just goes, alright, I play this, and they just go right onto the hero. It's nice because it's a deck thinner. I like that part of it. However, I'm also looking at this from a more realistic standpoint of, this is 8 mana. That's expensive for this thing. So it's just like, do I want it in my deck to be able to actually play it? To be able to thin it out a little bit more so I can get my combos out? Or do I want to not include it and just use the Arcanologist for not only board presence, but also hand resources? So, if anything, I'm just going to kick this at Bulb's direction, because it's just like, Bulb, you have the eyesight, or at least being able the mindset of potentially seeing how this could potentially work out. So, here, ball's in your court. I
remember messing around with Secret Mage back during the Gadgetzan meta at the very beginning. And given what I experimented with to kind of get the perfect balance, and given what I've seen in Secret Mages in general, Secret Mages do not go as nuts with secrets as you would think. They don't go as nuts as something like Secret Paladin did. They normally run, I'd say, 4 to 5 tops, really solid secrets, and a lot of those are going to be 1-ofs. They're going to have 2-ofs of a couple, maybe even 3 really solid secrets, and then have some other 1-ofs. Also, the thing is with Secret Mage, you want to be able to get your secrets early, and you want to be able to play them free with things like Cabal Lackey and Karen Tormage to basically get the bodies on board and play a secret. You want to draw them with your Arcanologist. You want to discount the Cabal Crystal Runner. So essentially, Eddie, you are right. This is an expensive spell. This is way too expensive for Secret Mage. Just because of the fact that Secret Mage is not running a wide variety of secrets in the first place. They are running probably like 4 solid sets of secrets. But by the time you get to the point in the game in which you would want to run Glacial Mysteries, either A, they've already played most of them, or B, they have most of them in their hand already. Which means that you might get 1 or 2 secrets on the field from this, tops. And you might not even want to do that. It's a huge loss in tempo in a deck that's very tempo-oriented. So, a lot of people were comparing this to Mysterious Challenger. Mysterious Challenger gave you a body on the board, as well as putting a lot of secrets attached to Paladin. All of the Paladin secrets cost 1 compared to Mage's 3, and Mage's secrets tend to be a lot more powerful, which means you want them early on and they can stand on their own, where Paladin secrets needed minions on the board. So, you put all that together, and I don't think that this is going to have the same effect as Mysterious Challenger. It's just way too expensive, and Secret Mages already know they are not running that many secrets to begin with. They are running, like I said, I'm going to say 4 is the magic number. They're probably running 4 very solid secrets, and we already know you're going to have your Ice Block, you're going to have your Ice Barrier, and then after that, it just depends on what they want to go with. Whether they're going to be running doubles or going to be running one-offs. Some will probably be running Counterspell. Some will probably be running Mirror Image. Some run, So really, you have 2 that you're going to be running doubles of, especially, and then you have 2 more that you just figure out which secrets you want to kind of slot in. It's kind of the same idea with Secret Hunter. You don't slot in every single secret. You figure out which secrets work the best, and then work around with the rest of your strategy, because you cannot pump your deck full of every secret, or else you're just going to collapse under the weight of everything. And that's why Glacial Mysteries doesn't really work, because without that body like Mysterious Challenger, there's really no reason to put this in your deck as a spell. If this was like a minion that had the same effect, I might say maybe. But as a spell, an 8-cost spell, that late in the game, when you're probably thinking about Alex Strazine next turn, I'm sorry, it's not going to be run. It's not going to be ran at all. Next up, we have Obsidian Statue, which is a 9-cost 4/8 priest minion with Taunt, Lifesteal, and Death Rattle. Destroy a random enemy minion. I like this minion. I like this minion a lot. A very late game minion, which priests can get to the late game. I think it is a key Death Rattle minion for Awaken the Makers. And besides that, other priest decks might just want to run it just because of how powerful it is control-wise. It also has the 4 attack stat, which means priests themselves are going to have a hard time killing it. It's going to restore life to you. It's going to be hard to get through because it has taunt. And the big body that priests can just keep and sustain. Oh my word, this thing is a powerhouse. I love it.
Tonight, a tale of glorious redemption. I look at this thing and I'm just like, that's a nice card to get from Barnes. It's like, oh no, 1/1 taunt with all of that, and it's just like, oh, gotta be able to get rid of it. Makes your opponent have to stop and think for a minute. And then we get it with N'Zoth again? Potentially twice? And Amara? You're making me think things here. Blizzard, you're making me think things here. And I really, really do at least like the look of it. I'm not exactly sure be a meta definer, but I mean it's nice. I give it that. Are we good on this one?
Yep.
Next up we have Simulacrum. 3-cost Mage Epic. Copy the lowest cost minion in your hand. So I'm looking at this and I'm just like, yo, am I going to be playing this with my Exodia Mage? Because it's a 3-cost, which, God knows Mage needs more 3-cost stuff. I twitch. And it's just like, okay, I can copy the lowest cost minion in my hand. So, in case of that dirty rat yanking out my someday I'll be just like you, I have this to be able to just go, I need a copy of that, by the way, because he kind of screwed me. I can discover it from Primordial Glyph to be able to get another, and then, you know, just have it as a 1-cost, so 1, and then just make another low-cost minion in my hand. But it's just one of those things where I'm just like looking at this, and it's just like, that 3-cost slot is so contested. You have so many things that you have to be able to figure out, okay, do I want this or do I want that in the deck? Like, if anything, it also makes it to where if we get a very much slower end meta, this can be ran because you're not worried about having to think about, like, things like Aculite or whatever. But it's just, Bob, I'm going to throw this one to you.
In general, Mage doesn't really run minion-heavy decks. I think that we may see some actually rise from the ashes with the new expansion, but in general, Mage just doesn't run it, which means the obvious use for this card is not going to be, makes it dead in the water. However, in combo-heavy Mage decks, such as Exodia Mage, Simulacrum can actually kind of help you develop your strategy quicker. And so, I mean, there you go. There's a possible use for it. I think it'll mainly be used in combo decks, in which it pretty much rewards your ability to kind of play skillfully. But otherwise, I'm not even sure this will be used in minion-heavy decks for Mage, because Mage will probably want to use their spell slots to basically help control the board and protect their minions. So it could see some niche play. I don't expect to see a lot of wide play. Next up, we have Lilian Voss. Lilian Voss is the Rogue Legendary. It's a 4-cost, 4/5 with the Battle Cry. Replace spells in your hand with random spells from your opponent's class. I'm seeing a lot of people rave about this card, and they're using the example of, you know, you can replace, you know, the coin, you know, dead spell cards like coins and Razor Petals and the like. And yeah, I guess you can kind of do that, and maybe that'd be the best use for it. But then again, if you're running a deck that runs the coins and Razor Petals, which means you're running a Miracle type deck, you have better options than including Lilian Voss. And then if you're thinking about, well, what about Brrloc Rogue? Guys, I have played Brrloc Rogue. Brrloc Rogue, with the spells that you bring into Brrloc Rogue yourself, you're bringing those spells in for a very specific reason. A, either they're actually helping you get cards from your opponent's class, or B, they're there to help control the field while you kind of set things up to get, you know, wilder solutions. And in that case, replacing your carefully chosen control cards for random spells that might not even help you is scary bad. Yes, this can ramp into Ethereal Peddler, but that's assuming that you want those random spells in the first place. Brrloc Rogue's whole point is getting random spells and minions or whatnot from outside of the game. They don't want to replace the stuff that they have. They want to get more things. So in that case, I think Lilian Voss doesn't really work in a Brrloc Rogue deck as well. So it's one of those cards that I kind of like the concept of, but I'm just looking at it going, I'm not sure where this fits. Because in the deck you'd think it fit, I don't think it really does. I think it goes against what the deck wants to do. And then in something like Miracle Rogue, yes, you could get rid of some of those useless cards or those low-cost cards like coins or razor petals. But the entire reason that you have coins and razor petals and Miracle Rogue is to essentially help enable combos. It says essentially help you do crazy things. And if you use Lilian Voss to get rid of those cards, you run the risk of not being able to perform the combos when you need to use them the most. So it's a cool card. I just don't think it's going to see any play.
I think you've kind of hit most of my nails that I was going to hit. And so it's just like, I really don't have much to say, because you just kind of hit everything.
Well, I had to also bring it in from a Brrloc Rogue player's perspective, because I think a lot of people just look at the effect and just think, oh, Brrloc Rogues are going to love this. And I'm just looking at it going, no, we won't. And here's the reasons why.
Yeah. So that's why I'm just like, I think, if anything, I'll just leave this one to you, because it's just like, that's all you, man, because it's just...
We have gotten really good Brrloc Rogue legendaries in the past. Shaku was incredible. I actually went back and grabbed a legendary, because my Brrloc Rogue deck is in Wild now, because I didn't want to lose some of the pieces I had. But I went back and I grabbed a Trade Prince Gallywix, because during some of my mirror matches with Rogue, I would randomly get it, and I realized how powerful that card was. Rogue has gotten some very powerful Brrloc-style legendaries in the past. And compared with this is very, very weak.
Yeah. So now we get to move on to Unwilling Sacrifice. 3-cost, Warlock rare. Choose a friendly minion. Destroy it. And a random enemy minion. Okay. I can hit my eggs on my side of the board and then make it to where they pop out and one of your minions is destroyed. Okay. In Wild, if I really want to, I can go and Vanish, destroy one of your random minions, and get an enemy minion as well. But as far as Standard goes, I mean, I'm not exactly sure where I would want to put this on it. So it's just like, Bulb, is there anything you can really, like, my way to kind of, like, hey, this is useful here?
It depends on the minion here. This set has given us a lot of minions that would be really cool to destroy, and also Warlock has ways to generate some small tokens that they can then use to destroy to their benefit. It's not a bad effect, to be completely honest. It's actually a really nice effect, because I think Warlock does have cards that they can choose to get rid of a minion, and especially if you are in a clutch situation where you have to use this, then I think that Warlock will not mind using this spell to basically control the opponent's board. The problem is that if you just, for one more mana, you have Blast Crystal Potion, which allows you to choose the minion you want to destroy, and you just lose a crystal, and that might be preferable to Unwilling Sacrifice. And if you wait 3 more mana, you have Siphon Soul. So it's not like Warlock was starved for minion removal, or really hard minion removal. A lot of people were comparing this to Deadly Shot, but the difference is Deadly Shot is essentially Hunter's only form of hard removal, whereas Warlock already has multiple ways to just obliterate an enemy in one go in Standard. So with that in mind, I think in the right deck, this could really find a home, and it could be really awesome. But again, it's a random enemy minion. You have to sacrifice your own minion, which I don't think Warlock really minds, depending on what they have out there. And also just the fact that there are better hard removal tools that Warlock could be using. So that makes this a tough sell. Maybe after the rotation, this might actually find a better place in the Warlock meta. But as for right now, there are much better choices. So up next we have Brrloc, which is a 2-cost 2/2 Shaman Murloc with the battle cry, freeze an enemy. This is a pretty solid card. Number 1 for Frost Shaman, this will fit right into just freezing an enemy, just can come out whenever, just pop it down, freeze, and you have a 2-cost 2/2 on the field. And other than that, if you are playing Murloc Shaman, this is a very solid minion as well. It is going to see play. It's going to see play in multiple decks, and actually, it's kind of a cool card. It's a cool concept, and also a very funny name.
Gimme, 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 gimme. Give me! Oh my word. Like, I'm looking, because, like, free shaman already gonna be more than likely a thing. Duh, this is going in it. And then I have my quest shaman in wild with this. I could replace some stuff out to put this bad boy in. Just give to me, please. I really am just excited for it. Really, really want it. So next up we have Treachery. 3-cost Warlock Epic. Give a friendly minion, or choose a friendly minion and give it to your opponent. This is nifty. I really do like it, because there's some of the cards that have been announced in this set to where it's just like, okay, I'm going to drop this card and then play it alongside Treachery, to where it's just like, here, you can have this. Like, if I want to, I could go Ticking Abomination, and then go, here you go, opponent, have this. Or go with the one, it's 5-cost 2/2, came out last set.
Last set?
No. Mishas or Gadgetzan.
Oh, Bomb Squad.
Bomb Squad, thank you. Hit my opponent's minion, and then just go, here, have this. I like that for its niftiness, or just like dropping my Doomsayer, and then just going, here, have my Doomsayer. At the start of your turn, oh, my board! And they're just laughing. I find it nifty because now you're making it to where like Warlock becomes this class about like manipulating minions and manipulating the board and just having a grand old time with it. Bob, I'm gonna throw it to you.
This is a pretty interesting card. It enables a lot of different potential combos, which is really interesting because in order to make the most use out of this, you have to construct your deck in a very smart way where you have different types of synergies, where you're basically going for maybe specific combos. This could be used in some very unique control Warlock decks, and like I said, unique combo decks. You've hit upon most of the combos. We're going to be talking about more combos later. In general, though, I do not expect the general overall population of Hearthstone to use this card. I just think that it's a card that probably requires a lot of out-of-the-box thinking, which is a space that not a lot of players are really comfortable with, or at least designing decks in that way. Even I'm looking at this going, there's some neat opportunities, but I'm not sure I could design a deck that uses this card to the best of its ability. While I think it's cool, I think it's going to be a niche card for some niche decks, or maybe even a very strong controlling Warlock deck that needs to know exactly what they're doing at all times. So right off the bat, I don't think we're going to see a lot of Treachery decks, or decks with Treachery in it, and I think when it does become more apparent, it's going to be after some time has passed, and and the more higher end players have experimented with them in control Warlock decks, and we get a very solid control Warlock build. Until that point, this is going to be a very niche card that might be experimented with here and there, but it's not going to see a wide use of play. But I do think the game is richer for having this card. So, next up, we have Valeera the Hollow. Valeera the Hollow is the rogue Death Knight hero. Now, when she enters the battlefield, it's basically a 9-cost card. Of course, like all the other heroes, it's giving you 5 armor, and the battle cry is you the hero, gain stealth until your next turn. Which is, we'll get into this. It's pretty neat by itself, but its but Valeera's hero power is different than all the other hero powers because it's an automatic hero power. It's a passive hero power. It's called Death's Shadow, which says during your turn add a shadow reflection to your hand. And shadow reflection it copies the last card you played, including mana cost and everything, not discounted, of course. So this is really good for, if you play a card and you can immediately play it again, with the copied shadow reflection. First of all, let's talk about the battle cry, because this is kind of neat. I had to double check with this, going, wait a minute, you're giving your hero stealth. How does that work? Because we've never really seen this. But yes, your hero gets stealth, which means that for the next turn, it can't be attacked and it can't be targeted, which is amazing. And I kind of agree with Mike Donay when he was talking with the Omni-Slash crew, that as far as whether healing or avoiding, this is kind of what rogues really should be doing. Not really having healing in the class, but giving the rogue heroes ways to become untargetable, which I kind of think is cool. I wouldn't mind more cards in the future in Rogue allowing us to have stealth. That's kind of neat. That opens up a lot of design possibilities. And Shadow Reflection is just really cool. It allows you to, let's say you played a card into, let's say you prepped an Eviscerate, then you can cast another Eviscerate from Death's Shadow, so you just did 8 damage. And that's really cool. Now, I'm going to disagree, though. As cool as I think this is, I am going to disagree with Mike Donay. Mike Donay said that he thinks this is a card that can go into any rogue deck. And I highly disagree. I don't think every rogue deck wants to run Valeera the Hollow, no matter how cool the ability can be. Because in some decks, like, for example, Brrloc Rogue, that Shadow Reflection is just going to take up space. And Brrloc Rogue is a deck that, near the mid and end game, they are very concerned about their hand size because they are pretty much holding and generating a lot of cards. So you're really mindful about how many cards you have in your hand. Adding an extra card that always shows up every single turn is not something Brrloc Rogue wants. And there are other specific rogue decks that I don't really think want this, because that is not where the synergy and the deck composition strengths lie. So I do not think, just like any other hero is not going to be should not be automatically included in every single class deck, I don't think Valeera the Hollow is an auto-include in every single rogue deck. However, as far as current decks, where I think its strong suit really lies is Miracle Rogue. I think this hero is nuts in Miracle Rogue, because it enables all sorts of combos. It allows you to go off quicker, to pretty much copy maybe certain key cards that you want to have a similar effect to. This is a great and nutty card. And pretty much any rogue deck that I think is more controlling and more control-oriented rogue will want this. A more combo-oriented rogue will want this. So in those type of decks, I think this is a very strong card. Now, it is a very strong hero in general. I'm just saying that I don't think every single rogue deck will want to run one. But for the ones that really want to make the utmost use of Shadow Reflection, that rely on their card effects, on the combo effects, on controlling the board, Valeera the Hollow is a must-craft card.
You kind of hit everything again, for the most part. At least I would even.
Are you saying you want me to just stop talking?
Oh no, I mean that's fine. It's just one of the things where it just makes it where I don't really have to speak for that matter. The only thing I got at this point that I could say is just Battle Cry, gain stealth until the end of the turn, kiss my ass, bitch, you ain't hit me with that Pyroblast,
You're just feeling so bad because you really wanted to gush about this card, and I ended up taking your words away.
Oh no, it's fine. Like I said, it's no big deal. It's fine. It's just one of those things where it's just like, hey, saves having to have me talk about it.
Yeah,
so if anything,
no one would want to listen to you talk and gush about a card.
Oh, no, not at all. Next up, we have Ultimate Infestation. 10 cost Druid Epic that deals 5 damage. You draw 5 cards, you gain 5 armor, and you summon a 5/5 ghoul. Okay. 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 On Yogg, this is nutty. But as far as me going, I'm gonna put a spot in this for my deck, I don't think so. Oh.
I think if any Druid deck will run it, it's going to be Ramp Druid, but that cost is very expensive. But then again, that's a nutty effect, so I think Ramp Druid could run this, because they can get to 10 quicker than their opponent, and, you know, in those terms, that's a very nice effect, and by that point, they're going to be starving for card draw. Or, you know, they can just use it whenever they need the cards, because, you know, you want to draw the 5 cards at the right time. So I think in those ramp-type druids, this is a decent card. Other than that, if you're more mid-range, no. This is going to be a very niche card. Like I said, I can only think of like one type of druid that's really going to consider running this. But other than that, it's really expensive, and I think those type of druids, the mid-range druids, are not going to want to run a card like this, no matter how cool it is. But I do think it's going to see some niche play. It's just not going to be all over the place. So next up, we have Desperate Stand, which is a 2-cost Paladin spell that says, give a minion Death Rattle, return this to life with 1 health. On the one hand, this is a targetable redemption, and it could be used to create some really cool combos. It could also be activated on your turn. That also means it's easier to get rid of the Death Rattle via silence effects or via transformation removal. I think Redemption might be more reliable. A lot of people said, well, you can get multiple Tyrians. Yeah, but Tyrians are very easy to get redeemed with Redemption, or with Getaway Kodo. Whereas I'm having a hard time wondering why you would want to Desperate Stand it as well. I think that there might be a use somewhere for Desperate Stand, maybe in the Galvadon decks. But in general, I think that if Paladins are worried about a minion returning to 1 health, and I'm not even thinking Eddie in my combo deck, everything's coming like Ragnaros. I think even in those terms, I would much rather prefer Redemption over Desperate Stand. Just because I do not want to draw my opponent's attention to the fact that they will be coming back, and I just think Redemption, if I play just right, is a lot easier to control and make sure my minion comes back stronger and does exactly what I want it to do. So I'm thinking this is a niche card.
I give you that yeah, it's probably a niche card, but like this and Redemption, like Redemption's a lot easier to play around because your opponent's going to be testing it first, because it's like, oh, there's a secret on board. Alright, well, it's X, Y, or Z. Well, let's test for X first, and then I do this. Alright, it's not X. Okay, so let's go for Y. Alright, it's not Y. Okay, could it be Z? Oh, looky there, it's Z. Okay, cool, and then we just maneuver around. With this being able to just go, alright, bam, this has Death Rattle and it comes back. You now have to waste resources on either targeting that, like your Silence effect or Polymorph effect, to where, like, because of Stonehill Defender, I could still be having that Tyrion in my back pocket, to where I can just go, oh, you wasted it on that? Well, here's this. Na 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 na, it's still here. So it's just like, I like it because it does draw that attention, and it does draw my opponent into having to actually grapple for, or at least waste resource on it, to where it's not either coming at my face or coming at another part of my board. that's where I like it. But I do agree that it is a bit niche, and you're going to have to figure out where you want it, or at least where you want to put it, because, like, Control Paladin isn't going to be like, oh, I need to run this, because the Control Paladins are so tight-knit and bottlenecked as far as their cards go right now. So it's just like, yeah.
And there was a reason why I said that Redemption is a lot easier to control what comes back. Because you're just thinking, well, they'll just target something else. Well, that's assuming that you've left them much choice in regards to bad targets. Because normally by the time you put down Redemption, you really start to control what you put on your board, because you want certain things to come back. So it's not random as much as you think, because you really stop considering hero powering. You start putting other threats out, and if we're talking about it's Tyrion out there, or it's something else out there where they're forced to attack it anyway, that's good for you because they have to go through it, and whoop, now it's back. Sucks to be you. So I think, like I said, I think Redemption is easier to sneak by and trick your opponent and basically get the effect you want off. And it's also a lot easier to control, where I think that Desperate Stand is a lot more niche and draws so much attention that you could end up shooting yourself in the foot if you don't know what you're doing. So in that terms, in the decks I personally build, in the decks that I build, that I'm looking at for Paladin that would want a minion to return, I just think Redemption is a much better choice, because I think that it's going to get you the results you're looking for 9 times out of 10 compared to Desperate Stand.
Fair enough. I'm going to move on to Shadow Ascendant. 2 cost, 2/2, Priest, common card. At the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +1/+1. Okay, so Priest gets more 2-drops? Or at least, beneficial 2-drops. Interesting. Interesting to say the least. If anything, if aggro Priest, which, that's a weird phrase for me to remotely say for that matter, becomes a thing, this could see play. It's just free buff to 1 minion on my side of the board, which is pretty sweet and pretty nifty. Bob, I'm going to throw it to you.
At first, I'm looking at this going, it's probably not going to get to see play, because a lot of other 1 to 3 cost minions that have buffed one of the stats on other minions randomly before at the end of every turn haven't seen play, whether it's they're buffing the attack or they're buffing the health. And then I got to thinking, you know what? This is different because it's actually buffing both. And if just getting off one of those both buffs can be extremely powerful. And the fact that, it could survive multiple turns, this might not be a bad card, especially not a bad 2-drop option for Priest. So I think it's going to see some play. How much? I guess it really depends on the meta and what Priest is going for, but yeah, I could really see this seeing some play over other type of stat boosting cards just because it's boosting +1/+1. And the fact that it being a 2-drop 2/2 is not a bad stat line, in addition to those effects. So it could see some play. Will it be will it be a meta-defining card? I really don't think it will, but I don't think it's going to be seeing 0 play. Anything else to talk about that card, Eddie?
Nope.
Okay, guys. The next card we have to talk about will probably last the rest of the video, and it's Skullking Geist. A 6 cost, 4/6 minion, with the battle cry, destroy all 1-cost spells in both hands and decks. Where do I begin?
Start from the top.
Let's start from the very beginning. I hate this card. I hate this card. Before, I've said different things throughout when we've done card reviews about how I think certain cards, certain effects are healthy, are healthy for the game, or introduce cool concepts that Blizzard can expand on in the future, that can expand the health of the game. I think this card does the exact opposite, which is it can be detrimental to the ongoing health of the game, mainly because of what it establishes. Various commenters, I think we've talked a little bit, but not very much about hard removal options that basically counter a specific threat, or what is seen as a specific threat at the time. And basically, are those good or bad? There are quite a few that think that, such as Brian Kibler, who thinks that hard removal options, such as Glocker Crawler, ends up not being good game design. And yet, those same commenters will praise Skullking Geist, which is essentially hard removal times 1,000. And the reason I don't think this is healthy for the game is because prior to Knights of the Frozen Throne, and we've briefly touched on this when we talked about, I think, Gnome Feratu and some other cards. Prior to this expansion, Blizzard, Team 5 was taking a hardline stance on interfering and manipulating and messing around with your opponent's deck. They felt it was okay to steal things from their class. It was okay to steal things or copy things from their deck. You know, it was okay to pull things out. You know, stuff like that interacted with their deck in that way. But as far as directly interfering with their deck, whether it was what Gnome Feratu does, discarding a card from their deck, discarding a random card from their hand, or any effect like that, for the longest time, Team 5 had a hardline stance of, we won't do that. We don't want to do that. Because not only, you know, a lot of people, I'm sorry guys, this is not an interactive effect. It's not only is it a non-interactive effect, but it basically takes something that your opponent took time to build and work and want to have fun playing with, and it completely crafts all over it for that effect, and it basically becomes unfun. If Team 5 is looking at departure points, this can be a huge departure points for some players. That basically the fact of the matter is you took what they built and then you just, you know, started taking shotguns all over the place to it and just, you know, might as well just burn the hand. And guys, I am not talking, because I know that this was brought up as the Jade Killer, because it's going to kill Jade Idol. I get it. That's not why I don't, that's why I don't like this. That has nothing to do why I hate this card. I hate it because of the precedent it says. And yes, Mike Donay says that this is the upper limit of where they are willing to push it. But the fact of the matter is, this card still sets a precedent, and it's a card that will not go away. Yes, eventually it will leave Standard, but it will be around in Wild. And yes, guys, I know that tech cards in general do not really don't stand the test of time, because number one, people don't really tech in a lot of the tech cards sometimes. And when they do, it really doesn't have a long lifespan. And when we get into Wild, decks become more synergistic. And so Skullking Geist, by those accounts, is more than likely to fade away. But the problem being is that I don't think it will. I think if any tech card will stand around and stay around and cause problems for the continual health of the game, I think Skullking Geist is it. Because if you get a group of people who don't know, you know, are not willing to build around and play around certain decks or obstacles, and they go for a shortcut card like this can have major effects on the game, not only for certain decks going forward, but I'm talking about card design. Because this is essentially going to make it very hard for Team 5 to make some very nice one-cost spells. And I don't mean broken one-cost spells, I mean some general decent one-cost spells you wouldn't mind just running. We're going to be getting to some in later discussion videos, but that puts those cards on notice, and that makes you even wonder if it's worth playing some of those cards. To give you an example, because if you're going, well, you don't have much of a point, guys, I'm about to, not including the one-cost spells that have been announced or that are going to be in the set, I'm going to read off every single one-cost spell in the game, and they're going to be on the screen here, to give you an idea how far-reaching this card really is. So in Standard, we have Claw, Earthen Scales, Jade Idol, Mark of the Lotus, Naturalize, Savagery, Arcane Shot, Bestial Wrath, Hunter's Mark, on the Hunt, Smuggler's Crate, Stampede, Tracking, Arcane Missiles, Mirror Image, Adaptation, Blessing of Might, Blessing of Wisdom, Divine Strength, Eye for an Eye, Getaway Kodo, Hand of Protection, Humility, Lost in the Jungle, Noble Sacrifice, Redemption, Repentance, Smuggler's Run, Binding Heel, Holy Smite, Inner Fire, Mind Vision, Pint-Sized Potion, Potion of Madness, Power Word Shield, Cold Blood, Deadly Poison, Hallucination, Journey Below, Sinister Strike, Earth Shock, Evolve, Finders Keepers, Fourth Lightning, Frost Shock, Lightning Bolt, Primal Fusion, Corruption, Mortal Coil, Soulfire, Blood to Ichor, Charge, I Know a Guy, Ironhide, Shield Slam, Upgrade, Whirlwind, and let's not forget about Wild. Here are the Wild cards in Wild only at this time that would also be affected. Living Roots, Raven Idol, Arcane Blast, Ice Lance, Avenge, Competitive Spirit, Sacred Trial, Flash Heal, Light of the Naru, Power Word Glory, Conceal, and Power Overwhelming. This is not the Jade Killer, guys. This is the deck killers. These affect whole types of decks that could otherwise make for a very healthy meta. This mainly also, I'm going to say if it counters any specific type of deck, this heavily counters combo decks. And if it's going to affect any, if it's going to affect any class, it's not going to affect Druid most of all. It's going to affect Paladin. Skullking Geist being in the meta, Skullking Geist being in the game, essentially, let's to give you an idea. I'm going to use an example from Magic. In Magic, you have these low-cost cards called artifacts that have ongoing effects. Imagine if there was a card in Magic that, yes, it was a little bit expensive, but essentially said that all players must get rid of all artifacts in their hand and in their deck. What would that do for the game? What if it wasn't artifacts? What if it was another type of card? What if it was special lands? What if it was minions below a certain cost? What if it was instants, enchantments? What if? I'm not as polished up on Yu-Gi-Oh as Eddie is, but I'm sure that we could even pick some examples from Yu-Gi-Oh. Of what if you had a single card that targeted a specific type of card in your opponent's deck and just wiped them out? Is that healthy for a card game, or is that just bad and scary game design that is developed to frustrate and to turn players off more than anything else? I'm not mad at this card that's going to for targeting Jade Idol. I play Jade Druid, and I know Jade Druid more than anything else can continue to run and be healthy, even if Skullking Geist kills the Jade Idols in the deck. Because Jade Idol is not the threat. The problem is that this card being created mainly because I think that the developers heard about people not wanting Jade Idol. Also comes down that all the people who hated Jade Idol never understood what Jade Idol's strengths were. And because of that, they were mad at a card and a deck that they had no idea how it played or how the deck worked. And now we have a card that no one really understands the implications of going forward, in much the same way that no one really understands what Jade Idol really means. And hopefully I am wrong, and this card vanishes into obscurity, but I just have to wonder that a card like this existing forevermore, and just existing in the game in the first place, I think can set a really bad precedent going forward. Because even if Skullking Geist doesn't end up being a problem now, or it could end up being a problem in the future. And even if it doesn't, what else could it lead to in the future that could be a problem as well? I don't think this is a card that eliminates problems. I think this is a card that causes problems and cuts down on interesting deck design and deck building. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it's an epic. So what? A lot of people are going to say it costs 6 mana. It's going to take a lot to just play it. Just because a card costs a lot does not mean that its effect on the game is not bad. There is a 9-cost legendary. I am very let me think of the word, Eddie, and you can cut this out later, okay?
Okay.
There's a 9-cost legendary in the game that I am very critical of by the name of Nostormu. And it's one of those cards that is not because I think it's a broken card or a powerful card or anything like that. It's just the fact of the matter that the effect always ends up leading to game-breaking glitches, and has been a problem since beta or alpha. I don't know. But it's an effect that has continuously caused problems, and given the direction that Hearthstone has gone, I don't think it's a good fit for the game anymore. I have always been of the opinion that even though Nostormu really doesn't see play, that it's a card that is bad for the ongoing health of the game, and it needs to be fixed. It does not matter that the card that's a minion that costs 9 mana, and it's much the same way. It has nothing to do with Skullking Geist costing 6 mana. I think a battle cry that outright is incredibly uninteractive and pretty much just shoots your opponent's deck is not good and healthy for the game going forward. I would say this no matter what the mana cost of the spells in general, or if it just targeted minions in the deck in hand, or if it no matter what it targeted, if it was a general target like that affected your hand and your deck, I would feel the same way. I am disgusted that this card exists. I understand that people did not like Jade Idol. Part of me understood why, even though I don't think that it was warranted. But I think that there might have been other ways to go across taking care of any problem that might have been foreseen. I don't think this is it. I think this is a problem in its own right, and I do not think this is healthy for the game.
Alright. I get to go now?
Yeah.
Alright. So I'm going to start basically back when I first saw this card. I was absolutely disgusted by it because it's just like, oh, well, I mean, like, well, that kills Jade Druid, but then I was just like, nah. And then just more and more over time, I was just, alright, hang on. When it came to Skullking Geist. Because it's just like, I get the chance to sit down and just reflect back. Now, I'm going to re-put the list up again. Because, if anything, Bob mentioned, like, all of these one-cost cards. The issue being is with these one-cost cards is that there's a limited number of these that actively see active play. So, we'll take that list and we'll just down, if any, to the more realistic cards that actually see play in decks in both Wild and Standard, if anything. And I would say it kind of fits in this notion. So we at least get that sort of training going on. Then you take a look at Skullking Geist as a card itself. This is one of those cards where it's like, oh, looky there, it's a 6-cost 4/6. So you're going to have to wait, potentially, because if you drop it on 6, you're kind of load/blowing the wad early, because at that point you're shooting your deck and your opponent's deck, and you're getting rid of their 1-costs that are in the deck. Now, depending on the deck that you're shooting, this either goes, well, that's the deck, in potentially Jade Druid, because it's like, well, I can't go infinite anymore, or at least I can't use my Jade Idols anymore. Or it just makes it to where, like, oh, hey, looky there, you've shot my 1-costs that are in the deck. Thank you. I now get to dig deeper and get into my combo pieces or my other things faster and better. So it's just like, alright, cool. Third of all, if anything, this card highly fringes on the speed at which the game gets played. Because, like, right now there's a lot of hyper-fast, hyper-aggressive decks out there. You've got Token Druid, you've got Token Shaman, you have Pirate Warrior, and you have mid-range Paladin. Those are, I would say, the top 4 decks, of course, that are being played right now, and just go ham and go crazy. And within them, you're not going to see a lot of one-cost cards. So it's just like, as far as the Skullking Geist goes, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't fear it. Now, going in on the more control style of things, I'm looking at Warrior, which could lose the Shield Slam and win, but at that point it's like, am I really losing something with this, or are you actually helping me? I look at Silence Priest, because that's more or less crept up. And it's like, okay, so you get rid of my inner fires. On one end, I'm a little bit miffed. On the other end, Lyra. Let's start that chain going. I'm keeping Potion of Madness most of the time in the early games because I need to be able to go up against those aggro decks. And if I assume you're an aggro deck, depending on, like I said, how this meta shapes out, that card stays. So it's just like, I'm grabbing your card, I'm throwing it back at you, and then it's just, alright. So you destroy my Potion of Madness. Well, that's a potential trigger for Lyra, and a problem. So it's like, eh. So I'll shift into Token Shaman. Token Shaman's getting that new Death Knight, and that thing's nasty. So it's just like, alright, I can see Evolve being something to where it's just like, I lose my Evolve. Well, damn. But I also step back and I get to look at it and I go, that's not my win condition. My win condition is getting a big, nice, beefy board and then just hitting Bloodlust and knocking your teeth in as hard as I can. And Bloodlust is a 5 cost. So it's just like, alright, well, I don't have to worry about too much there. So if anything, like, I understand where, like, Bob has his reservations about Skullking Geist. I can see where you hate it, man. But at the same time, I'm going to go along the lines of and step to the side of this and say, Skullking Geist is a very fringe. It has to bullseye and target. Yes, the first week that Knights of the Frozen Throne hits, you're going to see this thing being played like crazy because it's just like, I want to be able to hit that Jade Druid matchup and kill Jade Druid. Yeah! And I'm flexing and I'm awesome. But at the same time, once everything like hits the floor and we shift the meta around, like Skullking Geist, as far as a card goes, is going to be one of those cards to where it's just like, you have to truly think on, am I including this in my deck? Because I'm looking for those targeted key matchups. Or those targeted key cards. Because at that point, it becomes a vanilla 6-cost 4/6. To where I can just look at it and go, and avoid it. So it's just, it's heavily meta-dependent. And when the dust settles, I think Skullking Geist is just going to be like, nah, it's not going to be a big complication or a huge, like, oh my god, meta-defining one in every deck card. Because, like, if you take a look at, like, the secrets in Paladin, yes, they are 1 cost. But you can also take a look at, like, Secret Paladin in Wild, And right now it's in that tier 2 section to where it's just like, it's good, but it's not exactly exuberantly overpowered. And you have a tech card like Eater of Secrets to where it's just like, if I really want to be able to kind of knock that deck down a few pegs, I'm not going to be playing Skullking Geist. I'm going to play Eater of Secrets, so that way when my opponent plays Mysterious Challenger, I have a card that when it hits board, it challenges that Mysterious Challenger. So it's just like, damned if I do, damned if I don't, when playing Skullking Geist. So, again, it's one of those, once the dust settles, we'll see where Skullking Geist sits.
I think you are ultimately misunderstanding why I do not like Skullking Geist. I do not like Skullking Geist because of the precedent it sets, and because it is very unhealthy for the game going forward. It limits what Team 5 is able to do in the 1-cost spell slot. I never want them to make really uber powerful 1-cost spells, but it makes us question why create 1-cost spells in the future, because Skullking Geist exists. Just in the same way as people were just saying, well, we can't play this or that because this exists. And Skullking Geist is a really big problem in that regards. It is very unhealthy for the state of the meta because it can set a bad precedent going forward about unhealthy deck relationships and deck designs and how things interact with one another. This is not a card that is interactive. This is a card that is uninteractive. Basically, blowing up things out of the decks is not interactive because there's nothing your opponent can do to interact with it. And I've already thought of a combo, Eddie, that can make Skullking Geist just as oppressive as Quest Rogue.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's with a card we haven't even gone to yet.
Oh, okay.
But there is a card combination. I'm going to mention it before we get too further into it, and I guess when we get there, I can explain what I mean. You put this with you put this in the same deck, and build it in just the right way with the Priest Death Knight. You have an oppressive deck that basically the whole aim is just to murder all other decks and make it so that they can't do anything.
And that is?
Skullking Geist and the Priest Death Knight. You combo those two in the right way, you can kill a deck without even having to interact with it. Skullking Geist, I don't think... I agree with you probably in how Skullking Geist will be played, but my point has nothing to do with, like, well, we can throw these out because, they're not really played in the meta, so it doesn't really count. But the thing is, it still affects these cards, or affects anybody who wants to play combo decks that might want to use some of those cards. It heavily affects combo decks, and it affects negatively any design choices Team 5 might want to do in the future. It's just a card that, unlike Jade Idol, it's a card that actively hinders really good game design in the future just by existing. And not only that, it sets a precedent that Team 5 might not want to push past now, but in the future they may do so later and create another card that might be even worse and actually actively destroy game balance. So I think that this card probably is going to die off like a lot of attack cards, but I don't like that it exists in the first place. I think that it existing is not healthy for the game. Just in the way I think that certain effects, even though those type of cards won't see play, are good for the continual health for the game because it's something Blizzard can experiment on later. I don't think Skullking Geist is a very healthy card.
When it comes to Skullking Geist as a whole, like, I understand and I see your point. Definitely. But it's just more or less when I come at it, I'm looking at it and I'm just going, I don't see application of just having to go, oh god, I have to play around. God, I have to play around Skullking Geist. Oh god, I have to play around Skullking Geist. I don't want to add 1 mana spells to my deck. Panic. That's my big thing.
I'm not going to care one way or the other. I just think because most decks that run 1-cost spells, unless they're a combo deck, they can get by fine in the long run. But it's that precedent that Skullking Geist that sets, and what Skullking Geist means for the game, that I think is unhealthy and is bad. And I don't think this card should have ever existed, because I don't think it leads to good things in the future.
I know right now we can't look down the scope because we don't know what's going to be coming out as far as like 1-cost spells or whatever goes. But I really don't think we have to worry about Skullking Geist too much. Because like I said, it's just one of those things where it's just so fringe. But that's me, and that's my standpoint on it. And that's why, if anything, we have these sorts of things to where we have the discussions and everything else to where we can kind of grind it out. Like, I know we've at least been discussing this card for about 20 minutes now.
Yeah. And that's why I've been wanting to make it a point that there are a lot of times I consider a card's effect on the game and how healthy or unhealthy it is. And I want to make this clear. I think that this card is unhealthy for the game. Whether it will see use or not, the fact that Team 5 made this card and what it means going forward, I don't think this is a good thing. And I would not be surprised if Skullking Geist can create the type of environment that could make some players leave the game, which is the exact opposite of what Team 5 wants.
Well, if anything, we got to see from the Hunter Quest, it made one person leave the game, like one detrimental person leave the game, and we see how that turned out. But that's a different beast entirely.
Ha ha! Anyway, thank you guys for listening to us ramble. I know this has gone over a little bit longer than we like, but we'll be getting back to regular card discussions next time. So do stay tuned. Until then, I'm Bulbzac, and this is Eddie Phoenix, and thank you for tuning in.
Bye!